The scream was what hit first. Not a surprised yelp, but a full-throated opera-grade shriek that echoed off the rows of gleaming makeup palettes. That's when the soap started flying, followed by a shower of shattered eyeshadow compacts. All because I dared to say I don't work here. Honestly, I've seen some meltdowns in my time, but nothing quite prepared me for the absolute spectacle that unfolded in the middle of a perfectly pleasant afternoon at the mall. My mom and I, Aubrey, had been just chilling, enjoying some retail therapy. We'd popped into a high-end makeup store, you know the kind, all sleek displays and soft lighting, to sniff out some new perfumes and check out the latest eyeshadow palettes. We were having a genuinely lovely time, just browsing and chatting, when this woman walked in. She was probably late 30s, early 40s, decked out in a power suit that screamed, "I mean business," and a face set in a permanent scowl. Even from across the store, you could just feel the "I'm important, serve me" vibe radiating off her. Mom and I were engrossed in a discussion about shimmer versus matte finishes when the woman marched straight over to a section that was, admittedly, a bit out of the main browsing area. It wasn't an employees-only zone, more like a back corner near a stockroom door where they kept some of the overstock or new deliveries. I was just leaning in, checking out a display that had been tucked away. Suddenly, I felt a sharp tap on my shoulder. I turned, a polite smile ready, expecting maybe a lost customer. Instead, she was glaring at me, tapping her foot impatiently. "Finally," she snapped, cutting me off before I could even open my mouth. "Are you going to help me or just stand there admiring your reflection? I've been waiting." I blinked. "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't actually work here." I even gave a little apologetic shrug, thinking that would be the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. Her eyes narrowed. "I don't care if you're not clocked in yet or you're between customers or whatever excuse you're about to give me. You need to help a customer, me." She jutted her chin out. "No, really." I tried again, my patience already thinning. "I'm just shopping. Like you." I gestured vaguely around the store. That's when her face started to flush a rather alarming shade of puce. "Don't you lie to me. Why else would you be in this area if it's not for staff?" Her voice was rising, drawing a few curious glances from other shoppers. "It's not staff only," I explained, trying to keep my voice even. "I'm just looking at the new arrivals. My mom and I are shopping." She bristled. "New arrivals? Is that what you're calling it? You think I'm stupid? I demand you get me that." She pointed vaguely at a shelf of skincare. "And process my return now." I stared at her. The sheer audacity was breathtaking. "Ma'am, I truly cannot help you. I am not an employee here. I can't touch the register. I can't do returns. I can't even tell you where the restrooms are because, I don't work here." This seemed to flip a switch. Her face turned bright red, practically vibrating with indignation. "You little liar. I'll have you know I'm a very important customer here. And if you won't help me, then I will be your manager." "You'll be my manager?" I couldn't help but let a small, incredulous laugh escape. "Okay then. Manager, why don't you point me to a real employee who can help you?" I said, turning to walk towards the front of the store, hoping to find an actual staff member to defuse this escalating mess. But she wasn't having it. "Don't you walk away from me?" she screeched, following right on my heels, her voice echoing through the store. "You are deliberately trying to avoid me. I will get you fired." Just then, my mom, who had heard the commotion and was heading our way, rounded a display. She took in the scene, my bewildered face, the furious woman practically breathing down my neck. "Everything all right, honey?" Mom asked, stepping between us, her voice calm and soothing. "Oh, now your mother appears," the woman shrieked, her eyes wide with rage. "She's covering for you, isn't she? Trying to help you pretend you don't work here. Well, it won't work. I'll have both of you fired, and I'll call corporate." Mom, bless her heart, tried to interject. "Ma'am, I assure you my daughter doesn't work here. We're just shopping." "Lies." The word ripped out of her, raw and uncontrolled, and that's when it truly went from 0 to 100. She swept her arm across a display of expensive hand soaps, sending bottles crashing to the floor with a series of wet thuds and splatters. Then, with a guttural roar, she rounded on a table laden with tester eyeshadow palettes and perfume bottles. Smash! A compact, shattered, iridescent powder puffing into the air. Crash! A designer perfume bottle exploded on the tile, releasing a potent, sickly sweet cloud. She started kicking at the broken items, grinding them into the floor, leaving a trail of shattered glass and spilled product in her wake. The full-on screeching had begun. "You can't treat customers like this. You're fired. Both of you are fired," she screamed, utterly unhinged, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. All the other shoppers had either frozen in place, jaws agape, or were quickly backing away. A couple of actual store employees were rushing over, eyes wide with horror. But before they could even get close, she let out one final, ear-splitting howl of outrage and stormed out of the store, leaving behind a scene of utter chaos and a stunned silence. Mom and I just stood there, staring at the destruction, then at each other. It took a good 30 seconds for the adrenaline to fade and the sheer absurdity of it all to sink in. Then a tiny giggle escaped Mom, which quickly turned into full-blown belly laughs. I joined her, clutching my stomach, tears streaming down my face. We couldn't help it. The whole thing was just so unbelievably, ridiculously insane. We ended up sticking around to explain what happened to the actual store manager, who was mortified but also, frankly, a little impressed by the sheer level of crazy we'd endured. As a post-stress treat, Mom actually bought me a bottle of that apple pie-scented perfume I'd been sniffing earlier. In the end, that entitled woman made a total fool of herself, trashed a store, and accomplished absolutely nothing except giving me and my mom an unforgettable story. And honestly, knowing we dealt with that kind of entitlement with nothing but polite refusal and then shared laughter, that's its own kind of victory. Thanks for listening, guys.
Still watching? Dang, you must love internet drama. Smash subscribe. It's cheaper than therapy.
You? Yes, you, get over here, right now, and bring me a stiff drink and a mountain of pillows. The shriek cut through the mellow hum of the hotel bar like a rusty knife. I hadn't even finished my first sip of Cabernet, and my blissful post-chaos piece shattered into 1,000 tiny shards. I blinked, looking around, expecting someone else to be the target. But no, her bloodshot eyes were locked squarely on me. Me in my comfy, oversized sweater, nursing a hard-earned glass of wine. Definitely not a uniform. My name's Aubrey, and I've seen my share of weird stuff, but this was a whole new level of entitled. Just hours earlier, I'd been waist-deep in paperwork and logistical nightmares at this very hotel. My poor husband, bless his heart, had been struck down by a brutal flu, leaving him quarantined in our room, running a fever. His entire night staff, proving to be less than stellar, had apparently decided to stage a mass sick-out. So, being the supportive spouse I am, I'd spent the better part of the day swooping in, doing whatever I could to keep the place from imploding. I'd basically run the front desk, helped housekeeping organize their linen closets, and even untangled a printer jam that looked like a bird's nest. I was exhausted, but I'd gotten stuff done. That's why I was here, at the bar, treating myself. A little reward for playing impromptu hotel superhero, and now this. The woman, a walking scowl in a too-tight pantsuit, stomped towards me. "Are you deaf?" I said. "Now this service is utterly disgraceful." I put my glass down slowly. "Ma'am," I began, trying to keep my voice even. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I don't work here. I'm a guest just like you." Her face twisted into a sneer. "Don't work here? Don't be ridiculous. You're sitting at the staff end of the bar, practically dressed like you just came off shift. Now stop playing games and get me my pillows and a double vodka." Okay, staff end? It was just a corner booth, and my sweater was practically a blanket, not a uniform. But the fury in her eyes was so potent, it almost singed my eyebrows. Before I could correct her again, the actual bartender, a sweet kid named Leo who'd been shaking his head from behind the counter, stepped in. "Ma'am, she's right, she doesn't work here. How can I help you?" The woman swiveled, her rage instantly redirecting. Finally, someone with a pulse. I need a double vodka, neat, and for God's sake, where are my pillows? My back is ruined from your pathetic excuses for bedding. Leo, bless his patient soul, started mixing her drink. I'll get that for you right away, ma'am. As for the pillows, I believe we're fully stocked, but I can call the front desk to double-check their availability. Double-check? I told the drone at the front desk an hour ago I needed more. This is unacceptable. Your entire staff is incompetent. She practically snatched the drink from Leo's hand, slammed half of it, and then marched directly towards the lobby, her voice booming. I'm going to the front desk myself. This is a disgrace. I demand to speak to your manager. I watched her go, a mix of disbelief and morbid fascination bubbling inside me. Leo just sighed, shaking his head. She's been like this since she checked in, he muttered. A minute later, a fresh wave of shouting echoed from the lobby. My heart sank. I knew that voice. It was my husband on the phone. The front desk had clearly called him to deal with this nightmare. I could hear his tired, flu-ridden voice explaining patiently that the hotel was completely booked and every single pillow was currently in use. We truly don't have any extra available tonight, ma'am, he said, his voice strained. We can certainly try to arrange something for you first thing in the morning, or perhaps a different room type. I don't want a different room type, you imbecile. I want my pillows and I want them now. This is outrageous. I'm going to sue this establishment for negligence. You call yourself a manager? You're a joke. The screaming went on, getting more and more vicious. The poor front desk agent looked like she was about to cry, while the security guard was trying to maintain a poker face. Finally, I heard my husband, his voice firm despite the underlying cough, tell her, "Ma'am, your behavior is disruptive and unacceptable. If you can't calm down, we're going to have to ask you to leave the premises." That did it. The woman erupted. Leave. I'll leave when I'm good and ready. You can't kick me out. I'm a paying customer. More insults flew about the hotel, the staff, their families, their life choices. It was truly vile. After a few more minutes of pure vitriol, I heard the polite, but firm, request for her to fill out a customer dissatisfaction report and vacate the property. She roared up the stairs, still screaming, claiming she'd call every lawyer in the country. "This isn't over," she shrieked, the last words echoing as she vanished. I slumped further into my chair, my wine suddenly tasting a bit flat. What a night. I decided it was time to retreat to the safety of my own room before anything else could happen. I was just gathering my things when the lobby doors swung open again, and 2 police officers walked in. My blood ran cold. One of the officers approached the front desk. "We received a call about a disturbance," he said calmly. "Reports of a guest threatening staff." My husband, looking utterly drained, emerged from behind the desk. "Yes, officer. The guest and her husband who just called down have been making verbal threats to the staff. We've asked them to leave, but they refused." It turned out, while the woman was having her tantrum downstairs, her husband had called the front desk, apparently making even more aggressive threats over the phone. That's what triggered the police call. The officers went upstairs. We waited. The tension in the lobby was thick enough to cut with a knife. About 15 minutes later, they reappeared, the woman from the bar and a man who looked equally furious, both now in handcuffs. She was still railing, but her voice was muted now, her threats empty. Her husband just glared, a dark, unsettling promise in his eyes. They were escorted out. I watched them go, a strange mix of relief and a tiny, guilty sliver of satisfaction. It was awful to see people in that state, but after witnessing such unbridled nastiness, part of me felt a cold sense of justice. They'd pushed too far. They'd been entitled and aggressive, and now they were facing the consequences. I finally made it back to our room where my sick husband was trying to sleep off the adrenaline spike. "Rough night, huh?" he croaked. "You have no idea," I sighed, kicking off my shoes. "But at least you won't have to deal with them anymore. Sometimes, you just want to relax after a long day of playing helper, only to find yourself front and center in someone else's meltdown. And sometimes those people learn the hard way that the world doesn't revolve around their demands."
I swear, some people wake up and just choose chaos. Today I had a front row seat to a masterclass in it, courtesy of a particularly vibrant customer and a tall guy who, let me tell you, absolutely did not work here. It all kicked off on a pretty standard Tuesday morning at the grocery store where I clock in. I was just restocking some cans when I noticed this super tall dude, a regular customer we all knew, casually reaching up to grab a box of cereal off the top shelf for another customer who couldn't quite reach. Real nice guy, always willing to lend a hand. He smiled, handed it over, and the other customer thanked him and went on her way. No biggie. Tall guy then grabs a bag of those fancy kettle chips for himself, clearly doing his own shopping. That's when Karen descended. Seriously, descended is the right word. She looked like she was on a mission to personally offend every living soul in a 5-mile radius. She barreled up to tall guy who was just about to put the chips in his cart and snapped, "Are you finally done talking? I've been waiting for 15 minutes. Tall guy blinked, then just slowly turned to her, a little smirk playing on his lips. "My boss doesn't actually care who I talk to, ma'am." I nearly choked on a chuckle. He was playing along. Karen, though, was not amused. Her face was already turning that shade of blotchy red. "Don't you get smart with me. You're stealing money from this business, standing around chatting and ignoring customers." "Stealing money?" Tall guy asked, his voice calm, almost lazily curious. "Ma'am, I don't see how that's your business." But Karen was having none of it. She cut him off before he could even finish the sentence. "It is my business when I need help. Now where are the artisanal Ethiopian Yirgacheffe coffee beans? The shelf is empty." She gestured wildly to an empty spot in the coffee aisle. Tall guy just gestured vaguely. "All the coffee's in the next aisle, ma'am." "I know where the coffee is," she shrieked, "but the shelf for my coffee is empty. Go get it for me." He met her furious gaze with a totally serene one. "Can't help you with that, I'm afraid." Oh, this was good. I was genuinely struggling to keep a straight face, trying to look busy but soaking in every single word. Karen's face contorted into something truly terrifying. "Fine, then I'll get your manager. And you'll be hearing about this." She spun on her heel and stomped off, probably leaving a trail of smoke behind her. A few minutes later, the manager, Dave, bless his heart, he deals with a lot, came walking back with Karen in tow. Karen was practically vibrating with rage, pointing a finger directly at Tall Guy, who was now just leaning against his cart, munching on his kettle chips. "That's him. That's the employee who refused to help me. He was just standing around, talking, then ignored my request, and he was so rude." Dave looked at Tall Guy, then back at Karen, a confused frown on his face. He even glanced at me for a second, like he was trying to remember if we'd hired a new guy. "Ma'am," Dave said slowly, he doesn't work here." The air just sort of fizzled. Karen froze mid-rant, her mouth hanging open. Tall Guy, meanwhile, pushed himself off his cart, walked over to one of my actual coworkers, Mark, who was stalking nearby, and extended a hand. "Mark, buddy," Tall Guy said, a grin finally breaking through. "It's been a real pleasure working with you, but you know what? I've had enough. I quit." He shook Mark's hand warmly, who, bless his heart, just stared, utterly bewildered. Then, Tall Guy tossed his empty chip bag into his cart, gave a little wave to Dave and a triumphant, satisfied look at Karen, and strolled off towards the checkout. As he passed them, I swear I heard him mumble, "Some days, you just gotta know when to walk away, you know." And he just started laughing. A deep, satisfied chuckle that echoed through the aisle. Dave and Karen were left just standing there, exchanging the most utterly dumbfounded looks I've ever seen. And honestly, I had to bite my lip to keep from outright cackling. What a legend.
This next video hits the same vibe. Check it out.